Eivind Aarset, welcome to the Jazz Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Was that pronunciation? Was
It's
that
very good. Very good.
a feeling of being too kind? Um, Tell us a bit about yourself. Tell our lovely listeners who you are.
Yeah. Well, I'm a guitar player. Um, sort of interested in different sounds, and I've been working with a lot of different artists through the years. And well, I guess that's it.
Tell us about your journey then. How did you discover the electric guitar? Was that the first instrument you played?
Yes. Well, actually, I started with acoustic guitar, but that was just like uh, because my parents didn't want me to go directly on electric, even though that's what I
Right.
want. Yeah. No, it was listening to Jimi Hendrix. I bought a record from a friend, and that was it. Uh, Sort of something which just about that sound and energy that opened my mind. So I really got interested and wanted to interested in music, and also wanted to play guitar. Of course, impossible to master what Hendrix did, but anyway, it's starting point.
So, did you ever want to kind of play like him when
Yeah,
you
sure.
were?
It's totally impossible.
That's I understand that. Um, so why it seems like a thing with guitar that people kind of start on acoustic and then they go on to the electric later on. Does it have to be that way?
No, I don't think so. It was. I think it was more like craft thing that my parents they had this idea that you need to learn the craft first, and then you know from for some reasons they were not into music, so I don't know. It was just like how it was, and then I worked a little bit with playing with friends with acoustic guitar, and then as soon as I could save enough money to buy my electric, I did so.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
old were you when you got your first electric?
I think like 14.
Did you already know this was something you were going to do in your career at this point, you know?
Absolutely not. It was just like something I really enjoyed doing, and it was something I think it's a double. It's it's at that time music meant a lot, like a cultural thing. It was like what kind of bands you were into, that kind of stuff. It meant a lot, like a identity markers, I guess, is the kind of stuff. So, and then, but also the that music was like my main interest in a way. It's like always in my mind and thinking about tunes and records to buy and things to listen to. And also
So,
my friends were into it.
right.
Yeah.
What point did you decide then? Did you ever decide this is going to be something I'll do as a career, or did it just kind of evolve by itself?
It evolved by itself. I never, as a young, as a teenager or as a young man, I never thought I could survive as a musician. It was just like something I enjoyed doing, and then I started getting gigs, and then after a while, I discovered that well, I actually I'm working as a musician, even
Yeah.
though I didn't feel like one. I actually worked like it.
How did you like train then the majority of your learning and your practice? Where did that happen?
Um, I I went to this high school. Is it high school called? It's from age like 15, 16,
Yeah.
and with the music as like his main subject. So I got a lot of I got teachers there that could show me basic theory, which I did know nothing about And then I got in contact with a very good jazz guitar teacher who, because I was sort of interested in jazz, but I didn't get how, because it was so far from the kind of music I played with my local bands and stuff like that. So he showed me a lot of important stuff, both about how to approach the instrument and about scales and chords and how to expand, not necessarily learning detail how to do it, but putting me on the right track, how to go develop myself in harmonic and technique.
So why jazz? What led you down that path? Did you want to get into that?
Yeah, I was curious. Well, actually, this is one record my older brother brought home, which was that's Agartha or Miles Davis record from mid-70s, and that was a very big eye opener for me. And it's sort of a clear link to Hendrix from because you have this double guitar stuff with Reggie Lucas and Pete Cozy, and it's a roughness to it, a live recording from Japan. And that was the first jazz record I had. And then, of course, my teacher, the Jon Eberson, the jazz guitar teacher, he told me to listen to Tal Farlow and Django Reinhardt, which was something completely different. And I think also that at that time music were not so easy accessible, so you had to have somebody to point you in the right direction. And so I never get, I don't think I ever been a real jazz player in the sense that I master like bebop or that kind of stuff, but I think improvisation, the that angle to music, to not have even like not have things rehearsed to every little detail, but explore things on stage in front of audience or in the rehearsal space or whatever. That's important.
Yes, very for the yeah. It's interesting you say that about bebop. Do you feel like it? Did it bother you? Is it something you sort of want to constantly like worry about practicing more? Because I think everyone has that worry.
Now, I think it's something about and then later when I finished high school and wanted to study music, it's if you wanted to play electric guitar, it has to be just studies. And somehow at that time, I don't know, because this is many years ago, at that time it seemed like bebop is sort of more measurable, that you can say, okay, you can show that you master it. It's like a technique or like a not. I don't say that bebop is like that at all. I mean, I love to listen to Charlie Parker or player who can play this fluently. I think it's fantastic, but it has to be. My heart is not there when it comes to what I want to play myself or I really play. So I have a different things I search for, I think, which feels for me, for my personal playing is more organic.
Yeah.
Instead of forcing myself to master something which is more like a study than actually where I want to go.
So
if you see what I mean.
I see exactly what you mean. A lot of the, I think it's like an opinion that people go through it as a means to an end, to kind of have more to play yourself, more ideas. Do you think you can hear it in someone's playing when they've done a lot of practice, say in bebop, regardless of what kind of music they end up playing? Could you tell?
I'm not sure.
So after high school, what happens next?
Music study, and that was still not like a decision that I should have a career as a musician, but through music studies, I learned from the teachers a lot of stuff, but mostly I learned from meeting other people who were in the same situation as me, and forming bands, and that led to gigs and studio gigs, and then I left before I graduated, so I started getting gigs, and then
Right.
yeah.
Where were you studying?
In Oslo.
Right. Okay.
At university.
Yeah. Do you were you ever tempted to go back and finish?
No, well, no, not really. But I sort of thought about going to Berkeley and stuff like that, but I didn't dare. which is maybe it would have been good for me to go abroad, but I don't know. I never found out.
Have you ever lived abroad?
No.
What's the jazz scene like in Oslo and in Norway?
I think it's of course it's changed a lot the last years, and the level amongst the young musicians coming out now is incredibly high, but it's still in the 80s when I started to play or play as a professional, that was a fantastic scene. Yeah, I mean, you could hear like my local, or what to say, role models, like Terje Rypdal, Jan Garbarek, Jon Christensen, that ECM pioneers. You could hear them clubs in Oslo, so it was great, and it was a lot of stuff happening. But the scene has changed a lot, and now you can hear music every day, actually, jazz related music, or interesting music anyway. Lots of clubs and are open.
Do you think it's better now than it was, or is it just different?
It's different, and some ways it's better. I think the general level of musicianship are really high, and so it's also like the different jazz educations which started after I was at that stage in my life. It's a lot of stuff happening, I think, with the education and people. Also, this education, like student place as a meeting point, I think it's extremely important for people. That environment, it's great.
Yeah, I did like a jazz degree that wouldn't have existed, say, 30 or 40 years ago, and the big benefit for me was like moving to London. Like you say, it was just meeting people and listening to them more than, because I mean, obviously the course is great, but you can figure it out if you really want to by listening.
Yeah.
Which actually, I was thinking what you said before, that when, say the 80s, then even the 90s and the early 2000s, that music wasn't as readily available. And so if you bought an album, I think that you really cherished it and listened to it like over and over. Yeah.
Absolutely, they couldn't afford not to like album. You had to find something in the album which like sort of. So it's, yeah, I agree totally.
Yeah, I like that. I kind of, obviously it's great having like every album by every artist kind of readily available, but there's something special about having just a couple of CDs or vinyls and having to like wear them out. I think it's a very jazz musician way to approach music, isn't it? To listen to something hundreds of times.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is that something you would do a lot of, kind of listening or playing along to albums or anything?
I did. Yeah, when I was young, I used to do that all the time, playing along with stuff. Now I don't do that so much anymore, and it's it has to be. The reason is maybe that I found that playing along, I started to get into finger exercises, and the music moved on anyway,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
But playing with people, I realized that the finger exercises doesn't actually move the music.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right, that the interaction between the musicians is what makes it so special.
Yeah.
But when you were younger, did you have any favorite albums to play along to, or was there any musicians who you were like particularly, huge fan of?
Oh yes, there were. I played a lot with along with like I remember when uh, fusion stuff, and also of course Miles Davis, the Miles Davis, electric Miles Davis
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
I lot and also Schofield probably.
Oh, he
Uh,
was on our show last week.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great,
He's a
fantastic.
very nice man. He's very laid back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Very, very easygoing.
Yeah.
um one of my favorite bands, my favorite like fusion bands, is Steps Ahead, Mike
Oh yeah.
Manieri, Mike Brecker, that.
Yeah.
But you've recorded with Mike Manieri.
Yeah.
Yeah, the album Northern Lights, wasn't it?
Yep.
Tell us a bit about that then. How was it to play with Mike?
It was great. He's also really um, nice, super nice man, and his playing is incredibly strong. And I worked with him because Bendy Kofset, the sax player that took over in Steps Ahead after Mike Manieri, I know after Michael Brecker left. I played a lot with him in the 80s, and we still work together. And so Mike produced his Bendix first solo album. So that was in like 91 or something. We met for the first time.
Right.
And Northern Light, yes. And also he's been a guest with Bendix different projects, so I met him several times. And no, he's great, generous person, and his rhythmic, his timing is incredible.
I played once. It was like the highlight of my career in like a class at college. I think we must have played like All the Things You Are.
Yeah.
And the Mike had come into the college and played vibes. And it was a bit like what we were saying about bebop. You could kind of feel this like resonating from him, this incredible mastery of the language and the instrument. And because I've only kind of listened to him in a more like fusion modal kind of thing, it was really like exciting to hear him play sort of functional harmony and be so obviously so good. It sounds silly to say, but we're like, why wouldn't he be good? But yeah. So do you feel like you have to change, or do you ever want to sort of change how you play, how you approach the music if you're playing on someone else's album, like with Mike, if he's written the tunes and he brings it to you, or do you just play however you feel comfortable?
Yeah, I think I search when I play with other artists. I search for to find a way to that I feel that the music, my playing is melting together with the music in a way that I like, and I like to change. I'm always searching for new ways of expressing or expanding my repertoire, my vocabulary. So I think Northern Light, that's more than 10 years, maybe 15 years or more. So I'm sure if we did something together now, it would be totally different. But it's sort of when I'm always going through phases where I'm interested in special stuff, and I think that always reflects what I'm doing at the moment.
Right. I saw you play in Kongsberg in 2009. I think it was the jazz festival there.
Okay.
You played, John Schofield played, Chick Corea played. It was a fabulous weekend.
Who would I play with?
You played in it was Sonic Codex.
Oh yeah.
With 2 drummers.
Yeah.
Which I've never forgotten, because it was quite a small venue. It was very intimate, but really, really like powerful music, a big sound. To have a band where you have 2 drummers that could function together and not tread on each other's toes was really, really mind-blowing to try and, for me as a fan, to watch and understand. Tell us a little bit about that project, because it was an incredible venture.
Yeah, and that must be the very beginning of that concept. Because I played with Vetle, one of the drummers. We've been working since I released my first album, on and off, and we always worked with electronics beat, from which either Vetle triggered or I triggered, but and then sort of it Vetle suggested then, because the dynamic was suffering, I think, when you're working to have a like electronic beat keeper, it's sort of the rhythm gets stiffer, and also the volume. If you get really loud, you lose the contact with the beat, and if you go really soft, the beat is there to, and so it's sort of. We decided to move away from that, and Vetle suggested then a friend of him that they are sort of grew up together, like they've been playing. Not, I don't think they played together, but they're from sort of the same environment, and it's so easy. No, there's no competition feeling, and there's like a mutual understanding of the aesthetics. So it's more a talk of music, and I don't, they figure out themselves what is working.
So did you use the second drums instead of the like electronic?
It's sort of, but
right.
Function-wise, it's not like that. It's not like he's playing one is playing like a stiff or electronic kind of. It's more like we keep this big sound with percussion with drums, and much more, it feels much more alive, and it gets much more dynamic, which
yeah, for years I tried after that to have a band with 2 drummers and to understand, and only when I tried it did I really appreciate how hard it is to do that. Only like even to compose something that would work, or to have, like you say, 2 drummers that have to really know each other's playing inside out for it to.
And it's, I think it's also kind of musicians that doesn't have to show what they're able to do, because if they like really, both of them are like really playing all the time, everything they know, it's impossible for me to do anything. Yeah. Sometimes it's we talk about it to hold back, to just do the whole thing for some moments, because if you reach that what is the word, headroom. No, you get to a level, and then for me it's like okay, I can't do anything more, because the room is so full of sound, so it stops. So how to play with the dynamics, not to get too wild, but still, and that's, I think, sort of mature musicianship is needed, and not so selfish. Maybe selfish, maybe it's too strong word, but not you have to be like a collective.
Yes.
Not a single musician showing what they can do.
Sort of more like how you approach being an orchestral musician.
Yeah.
You know? So how do you how many people were in the band in Sonic Codex? Because my memory of it was that it was quite big.
Yeah, at that time, I think it was very big for me. It's not very big for other, but then it was 2 drummers, 2 guitars, bass, and trumpet player who also played some synthesizer. So I, both for musical reasons and for financial reasons, I decided to to make it smaller. And for musical reasons, it was not that the musicians with the other guitar player and the trumpet player were, I really like them as musicians, but it's sort of, when I want to do something which is freer, it's easier to move fast from with a smaller unit than with a large band, and where everybody has to be in the same spot in their heads to move from one to listen. And because I like that, to have some really free moments in a concert. Even though we play tunes, I want it to be free and want it to be totally different from gig to gig.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. My album is freely improvised, and normally we play with 4. And once I tried it on we decided like on the gig at the spur of the moment to try it as 8, and it was just like, it was the hardest thing I think I've ever done, because like you say, I felt like I had no control. It was just really hard to turn it or to steer it,
What kind of lineup is it normally in your band?
My band is, I play saxophone. So I have just myself, drums, guitar, and piano. So I quite like having no bass.
No bass?
Because then everybody, like the piano and the guitar, are kind of very free. With it being freely improvised, if they're free to be able to move around more between them, and the piano can play so low already, so I've just never quite, it's not that I don't like the bass, I think I just never met the bass player who felt like the person. It's more about, I know you feel the same way, it's more about the people than the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so interesting that to talk to you about that, because I learned the hard way by trying it in public.
Well, they have to do that, is because you never know before we are on stage, don't we? That's where you see if things are really working or if it's just idea.
So how do you go about composing for an album, for a project? Do you write quite a lot of it? Do you leave quite a lot of space for the freedom as well within the tunes?
I prepare, it changes from record to record, but on the last album I prepared a lot of stuff before going to studio, and then a lot changed in studio, and a lot changed after in post-production as well.
Right.
And the reason maybe for the post-production that a lot of things changed was COVID happened. So suddenly the record label didn't want to release a record before we could tour with the music, and then I get a lot of time to listen and think. So I did a lot of post-production when I had a lot of time for it.
Yeah, of course. What kind of things then would you be doing in these like post-production sessions?
It's sort of orchestrating with my sounds, and also because in the studio we played a lot of versions of the same tunes, which were all, not all very different, but different. So to decide which versions to use, that took some time, but mostly this orchestrating with sounds, I really enjoy that phase of doing, and then.
So this is like, you've already got some of the music, but you're kind of adding a lot on top of it.
Adding,
right? Okay. So let's talk then about your, I think this is possibly your latest, or you have I can't tell which came first, but Phantasmagoria, or a different
Yeah.
kind of journey.
Yeah.
So this came out last year.
Yeah.
Right. So this one you worked on during, did this happen during COVID?
Yeah. This was recorded just before COVID happened, and then COVID happened, and then everything was postponed.
Right.
So this is basically with my quartet, and I've been doing some other stuff for some years now. So we sort of get that concept back, and we're going to tour with this in the autumn. Was supposed my first tour was supposed to be in February this year, and like finally Germany was open. I saw tour which was already postponed, and then I got COVID just before.
Oh, that's terrible. That's horrible timing.
So once more postponed. So in the autumn, finally, we will do a real tour, and we're doing spread out gigs now in summer and now in the next week and May and stuff. So, well, but the album, that was. But what is it about the album? Yeah, that what was sort of I told you about the process there.
Yeah, we started the show. I should have mentioned it sooner than half an hour in, that we played the tracks Outbound at the top of the show. So just tell our listeners a little bit. I loved Outbound. I mean, the album is absolutely beautiful and stunning and but that tune particularly was a big favorite of mine. It has so much energy.
Yeah. The starting point for this tune is the Vetle, one of the drummers, had this theme which we played, and they're talking about post production. Then a lot of the layers in there's like one first part which is like theme is presented and stuff, and then we're going to open part, and with that's basically improvised in studio. But then I found some movements and chords afterwards which I really liked and so that's really a combination of keeping the live energy from studio and adding the orchestral elements.
Right. And when you're recording it live, do you know that you're going to add these things? Okay, so you just come to it fresh later on.
Yeah.
Is it harder with this project because it's been more spread out because of COVID?
I think the thing with the COVID that time was that it was hard to keep the energy up. I think I'm very happy with the album, so I think it worked. But from day to day, when you don't have this like a schedule yet, everything is all time far in the future. Then it's somehow harder to get the same work energy. That's not.
The other thing about Outbound, of course, is it's a great example of what you were saying about headroom. You've got so much space, the track evolves so sort of the musical maturity is like it just I don't know how to put it quite, but I would just get too excited. You've got
yeah no I think the it's for me it's important also to keep the focus on what the music, especially maybe during the post-production, that don't lose the live energy and don't polish it too much. So keeping in the focus in on what the music is about, in what kind of impact I would like the music to have,
that
like
is
the emotional side.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite things about your music is that you've got this level of polish on it, but it's got the energy and the raw, you know, you're right, is an awful thing to kind of put so much production value on a CD that it sort of doesn't sound real anymore.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I find interesting about the way you present your music is you have a lot of tension and release. You're a master of tension and release, but you don't do it in a way that like is a necessarily a conventional harmonic. You know, if we were talking about a standard, you would have all your tension would be in the harmony. Whereas for you, the tension is a lot of the time, for me, it's knowing that there's going to be a huge like energetic explosion at some point, but that it isn't happening yet. You know that you're building to something. And the fact that the pieces have a trajectory is what makes it so exciting to listen to.
Sorry, trajectory?
Trajectory is like something that's sort of going, you know, it's going and you're kind of on the way.
Yeah. I sort of I don't have any. It's not so conscious. It's
right.
It's like this is what happens in a way.
This is very interesting.
And also, it's also something maybe with, especially in this group, that we've been working a lot together live, playing lots of concerts. So it's also something which is our language developed over many years.
Yeah. Let's finish talking about Manta Ray, which features Ave Henriksen.
Yes.
Ave is a wonderful trumpet player and he's got such a unique voice. And you actually play on one of my very favorite albums, Cartography, one of his CDs.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about what it's like to work on his music, and how is it to invite him onto your music?
It's Arve is a fantastic musician, a fantastic improviser. I played that with, as you say, on Cartography, and also some of his other records, and that's I love those records, especially. Maybe also for me it's Cartography, even though I don't play it that much on Cartography. I really love it. But playing with him live is is fantastic. He loves to be surprised, I think. He wants to move fast and wants to be free. So he's a musician. You can sort of throw anything at him and he makes something beautiful out of it, even if something terrible coming. He's able to grab it and turn it into something meaningful and go and like a starting point for something else. The basic thing, Manta Ray, was that tune was not recorded in studio. That was I found just playing around with my stuff. I found this riff based on some sort of a harmonizer program, and it turned out that it's a good riff. And then I sent it to the drummers to overdub, and I sent this stuff to Arve, and I was very in doubt of the tune, but after listening to what he came back with, I was like, yes. I was not surprised because I know how good it is, but he really made that tune happen.
Oh wow, that's because I was going to ask you what about that tune it was that made you. So where was it recorded?
That was recorded in home studios. The basic stuff is recorded at my place alone, and then I sent it to the drummers. I sent it to Arve, and then it. So it's home studio.
Wow. Because you can't tell at all any difference in that track from the other ones.
No, I think that is also because I did not mix this album myself. It's mixed by a very good engineer. So he got all the tracks at the same time. So
Right.
this sort of also had this idea, understanding of, and the same engineer was where we recorded the basic tracks.
Right.
He's like been very involved sound-wise in the project, so I think he helped very much to keep the sound to like the Manta Ray, and also the last tune, which is basically mostly guitars, the Light on Sansu River, is also recorded only in my home studio.
Oh, that's amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Eivind, thank you so much for coming on the Jazz Podcast. We're
Well,
gonna
thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's been an enormous pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts and feelings, philosophies. We're going to finish with a little listen to Manta Ray.
Great. Thanks.